But we are now just 2 days away from the start of the World Cup, 3 days away from the US kicking off their campaign against Paraguay. Let's hear from some players ahead of kickoff.
The focus has started after our Germany game. You obviously want to have good performances against Senegal, Germany before leading into Paraguay. And look, it's something that we prepare for Paraguay when it's the next match.
We were able to kind of be together, isolated for a while, put in the work, and now it's really just about, playing with that intensity, but also with the smile on our faces. I think a lot of us play our best when we're really enjoying our soccer.
How's life with the team with health?
We're a little bit spoiled, to say the least. It's great. We have an awesome setup, obviously, right on the beach. Spend a lot of quality time with the team, and it's set up really well for the squad to be close together in players' lounges and just enjoying time together. So it's great. We've all obviously we're literally right on the beach, so we get a dip for a little recovery and a little sun, and then we head back up.
A man who knows all about preparing a US team for the World Cup, Jürgen Klinsmann, joins us.
I thought you were going to say he knows all about beaches.
Well, Jürgen does as well. Yeah, Orange County, it's not bad, is it, when it comes to life on the coast?
Yeah.
Jürgen, 3 days to go. What was your main focus with the team? How much were you focusing at the time on Ghana? Were you showing tapes? How did you approach this?
Well, in two ways. One way is, how you kind of deal with the players. You give them their time off. You give them, light time, I would call it, that they go, like in this case now, go to the beach, hang out together, build chemistry, build a good spirit now. Meanwhile, the coaching staff is working non-stop. I mean, they analyzing, obviously, all the group opponents now, the possible opponents if you go through, the group stage. And for the coaches, it's a non-stop working period that started there. But I think it's important that the players always have the feeling that they can live a bit their own life, that it's not all about 1,000% soccer now, that there's opportunities there if they want to go somewhere shopping or if they want to have a coffee and go to a local coffee shop or whatever, that it's a good thing. And obviously they're going to get their work in. And the training sessions, they got their 2 friendly games in now. They know a little bit more about themselves. And now it's looking forward to a very exciting World Cup.
How was it for you? Like you obviously played against Brazil, the opening game. The talk of that match was so intense for so many weeks. You're now just 48 hours away from the start. Like, how are you as a team, as a squad?
Well, it wasn't just the opening game. It was back then, which has changed now. It was also the opening ceremony.
Right.
Which meant we couldn't warm up on the pitch. Both Brazil and Scotland warmed up in an internal small warm-up area, which you would never do in any football match, never mind for one of the biggest of your career. The work is done. If you're the US, the work is done.
Right.
Pretty much. As Jürgen said, you're looking at relaxation, maybe a little bit, obviously a couple of days training, talking about set pieces, talking about the opponents a little bit, but not over-focusing where you're walking about the hotel fretting about it and thinking about the pressure and the expectation, and you've got to get it out your mind.
Right.
You know what I mean? You've got to relax. It's a World Cup, but you've got to relax. You can't get yourself, full of anxiety, because that's not going to help you perform. So the work is nothing much is going to change. It's focus on, and it's all sort of cliches. And when you hear players talking before these competitions, it is sort of cliches. But you can't really do a lot more. Maybe, I don't know what the scenario is with Pochettino, whether he's telling the players early about team selection or whether he's going to wait.
You must have known, though, I imagine, within your group. For example, from a personal stance, you knew you were starting that game?
Yeah, the Scotland team pretty much at that point kind of picked itself. There was one spot in particular, well, there was 2 spots up for grabs. The goalkeeping position, which was Jim Leighton and Andy Gorham, and it went to Jim Leighton. In the Euros, it went to Andy Gorham 2 years earlier. Andy didn't take that well, he left camp. And the other one was Gary McAllister, did a cruciate 6 months before the World Cup. He was the Scotland captain, so he was out. So the question was who was going to take that other slot. The other 9, barring injury, were pretty cemented, and that was a good place to be. because we knew what the team was going to be, we knew who was starting pretty much, and so you could focus on Brazil. And I dare say we were focusing on Brazil a little bit more than they were focusing on us, because it was that Brazilian team with Ronaldo, Rivaldo, Bebeto, Roberto Carlos, Dunga, Cafu, the list goes on. It was a brilliant side. But yeah, listen, I wished I was playing. I wished I was young enough to be playing again, because these are just great moments in your career. It's the biggest stage as a footballer. And hopefully, from your perspective as a player, whichever country you're playing for, it's one that you're going to remember.
Jürgen, on the point of the starting 11, when did you tell your boys who was starting and who wasn't?
I mean, probably the latest the day before in the training session. But they knew, because the way we set up the training drills and did all the work, I was very transparent. You know, I didn't hide it for too long. Obviously, there can be always a change of mind overnight and say, you know, I'm going to go a different way. But then I would pick that one that is left on the bench right away in the morning and tell him, listen, I changed my mind because I want to do this and this and this, and I explained it to him. But we did that a day or two absolutely before the game. We're not waiting before driving with the bus then to the stadium. There are coaches, they do it, you know, in a team session and in a hotel just right before going on the bus. And that's when they reveal the team to the players. And it's a way to do it. You know, you keep the tension high. You keep the obviously, they're all anxious. They're all hungry to get on the field and represent their country. But every coach has his own way. My way was I was very transparent and did it a day or two before.
Even though I said to you that, it was quite funny this, even though I said we knew what the team was going to be, Craig Brown never told us what the team was going to be. And back in the day when it was less sophisticated, you know the old projectors when you put a slide in and it comes up?
Yes. Then
Brian Hendry was the TV guy. He used to film training and do all that stuff. And so Craig Brown, we were in this team meeting, as you have meetings and meetings and meetings and meetings normally. We're in this team meeting, so Craig Brown said, right, we're going to discuss the Brazilian team and their weaknesses and all that, so their weaknesses.
Right.
So he said to Brian, put up what we think is going to be the Brazilian team. So Brian grabs this thing and he puts it up, flicks the button, and our team came up.
Brilliant.
So Craig Brown said, oh, for God's sake, he said, well, you know the team now anyway. So he actually gave, and we were all sitting thinking, well, we know what the team is.
Sure.
So he gave that, and it's light-hearted moments like that.
Yeah.
That, you know, you, as I said, you've got to break it up. There's going to be a lot of pressure, particularly, you know, our colleague Frank Leboeuf was coming over, won the World Cup playing in France. The pressure must have been incredible. Mm-hmm. And for the US boys, it's a huge country, so it's maybe a little different than having the World Cup in France, but there's still an expectation. And the more pressure that you can take off these boys' shoulders before a big tournament like this, the better. Because nobody performs at the best when they're anxious and tense and worried.
Sure.
You're always going to have a little bit of butterfly. You're always going to have the nerves because it is what it is. But you got to try and... The ones that perform the best at the tournaments, the big tournaments, are the ones that manage that. If you're going out in that field and you're petrified about what may go wrong, it probably will go wrong. So you've got to try and get that negative mindset and push it away and go out and absorb and enjoy the expectation and enjoy the pressure. Because as I say, from Scotland's perspective, and this is not going to be the case for most teams, but that was 98. They are here. They're playing in Boston, they're playing in Miami, they're based in Charlotte, but it's been 28 years. So you have to go and enjoy that. Unless you're one of these major countries that qualify for every tournament, more or less. And we're seeing what's happening with Italy now. Mm-hmm. You know, a lot of good players in Italy, and they're sat on the beach again. So you have to go out and enjoy it. When it comes along, you have to go and embrace it and enjoy it, because you never know if it's going to be your last or you're going to be fortunate to go to another one.
Jürgen, I've had the privilege to work with many footballers, and it's obvious that their attention span isn't that long. How do you deal with the opponents and what you can learn about them? How do you drip feed that information to keep them interested?
Well, you trigger the information about the opponent in days prior to the game, you know, until maybe 2 days before that. Then they should have all the information they need. And then obviously in training you do certain things on set pieces and you'll be aware of their strengths and weaknesses and all that stuff. But I think it's important then to let go.
Right.
The evening then before a game, you got to let the players prepare themselves the best way they are used to prepare themselves. I mean, they're all professionals. They're all players with experience. They're part of the best in the country. So they know how to best prepare themselves for a huge game like that. And I think the day of the game, I always call it, is the day of the emotions. You cannot overload them with information anymore. Not even in the locker room. If you want to feed them, I find it a funny thing. You see a lot of assistant coaches, hammering the sub players some information on set pieces when they come into the field. You really think that after 30 seconds they remember what he just said to him? It's impossible. Because when you are full of emotions, when you are anxious, when you are pumped up like crazy, you just want to go out there and give your best, and it's not the moment anymore to feed him with information and tell him, where he should be in what situation, because the emotions, they're taking over, and that's, I think, how it should be.
Jürgen, I imagine in training leading up to the big games, you could smell maybe, or you could feel some anxiety from certain players. How did you deal with that?
Yeah, when you feel it, when you sense it, then you try to calm them down. Some of them, it could also be that some players, in the Germany case, we are sometimes a bit overconfident. We become a little bit arrogant, and then you gotta bring them down and tell them, listen, you haven't done anything yet. You still gotta beat that opponent. So come on down and refocus. Get yourself straight. So either way, you have to find the right balance with the players. You gotta feed them the information in the right way. Sometimes it's also necessary to get a little bit harsher and a bit louder. Could be too, but it's because everybody is different. Everybody takes the information differently, and that's the fascinating work of a coach in those moments. And obviously, to open up a World Cup, the first game for your country, and like Greg said, I mean, if you play them Brazil, oh my gosh, there's nothing bigger than playing Brazil in a World Cup. So I think it might be good to leave the player alone and to let him figure it out with himself. How emotional and how pumped up he wants to get on the field. Then,
even though the whole of Scotland was watching that game, pretty much it was Brazil. They were the world champions, and the expectations were. We had a good side. Don't get me wrong. Most players were playing in the Premier League. At big clubs, had won titles and whatnot. We had, Paul Lambert just come off the Champions League win. We just won the title at Celtic. A lot of experience in that side, but expectations were that it was the other two games, Norway and Morocco. So there was a little bit of, there was a little bit of pressure taken off by the fact that who we were playing, but there was also the side of it, you're thinking, and I remember looking up after 20 minutes, and every time Ronaldo, Brazilian Ronaldo obviously, every time he picked the ball up, he was skipping past three players and the ball was whistling past Jim Leighton, who was diving across, and I'd never seen, I'd played with some great players like Zolas and Viallis and Ruud Hullets and all that, but this was something else.
Yeah.
This was something else. He was almost unstoppable. So the fact that the game was as tight was a bonus, but the expectation wasn't really there in that Brazil game. If we got anything, and we lost 2-1 to an own goal, but if we'd nicked a draw, they'd have been lauding that in Scotland. Whereas the US are going in against Paraguay, there's an expectation. Some of it's a little lofty, and I don't think it's a very acceptable expectation about, people think, they're going to get to the semi-finals. They may do. I don't think so. But there's certainly an expectation, I think, to win this group. Mm-hmm. And that puts a pressure on that maybe if you're a smaller nation playing a juggernaut like Brazil, it's not quite there. Whereas I think everybody's just thinking that this US side, they should be just dusting this group down and winning it at ease. It doesn't always work out that way.
It's interesting, Jürgen, when we were sat here in 2014 looking ahead to the US group, we think group of death here, this could be it. They could be home before the group stages. Obviously, you had Ghana and you had Portugal as well. Psychologically, how does that affect a team, if at all? Or was it kind of a bonus in a sense that because it was the group of death, there was almost a get out there?
Yeah, I think we welcomed that situation in Brazil at the World Cup, because we knew, the favorite obviously is Germany in the group, then Ronaldo with Portugal, then, the enemy of Ghana. But we just said, let's go and get on them and give them a real fight from the first moment on. And obviously we were thrilled, starting the game against Ghana with Clint Dempsey's fantastic goal after a minute. And we got so pumped up that we just saw, we thought, well, let's go to Manaus in the Amazon now and play Ronaldo. And I remember that team meeting there, I said to the guys, guys, do you really think that Ronaldo wants to come to Manaus to play the United States of America? You really think that he wants to be in the Amazon right now? So I said, let's make sure we send him home. He doesn't want to be there. And so it's so highly emotional, every single match in a World Cup. And every match is so different and has its own story. And that's what is so fascinating, because now the players, they will suck it all up now. They will take every single second in and will remember every second of this World Cup now the next couple of weeks, how they lived through it, how their families lived through it, their friends, and every fan is the same way. And this is the fascinating part of a World Cup, is that you share memories for the rest of your life.
I forgot about that there. You look at their group, it's Paraguay, Australia,
yes,
and Turkey. I've bit the bullet. And I forgot about that World Cup when Jürgen was in charge.
Yeah.
Nothing's ever easy. But you think about going in against Germany, Portugal and Ghana. Mm-hmm. Two juggernauts of European football, kind of. Certainly Germany is. And then Ghana from the continent of Africa. And then you look at this one here, that's maybe why the expectation is there. So that was an unbelievably...
God, that was Landon Donovan, Julian Green. Oh, those were the days, Jürgen.
Yeah, but the World Cup tells you all these stories. When we came after the 1990 World Cup as World Cup winners then to the United States, and we were honored to play the opening match in Chicago against Bolivia. And I was honored to score the first goal of the World Cup, and we won 1-0 against Bolivia. And then you realize after the game that actually nobody was watching your game. Nobody in the United States was watching your game, because a certain O.J. Simpson was on a car ride on the 405 freeway at the day exactly when we played the opening game with Bolivia. And then you read later on that 94 million or 95 million Americans were tuned into O.J. Simpson. And here goes your World Cup opening game with Bolivia, you scoring the first goal, but nobody knew it.
You're so right, Jürgen, about World Cup being moments that we remember for generations to come. And of course, we'll be covering it right from the start here on ESPN FC with you tomorrow. Jürgen, you're up early again tomorrow, Jürgen, with Stevie, Kay, Robbo, Ali and Frank Leboeuf. What a lineup on ESPN2 the day before the World Cup.